Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're at. In Virginia, I guess it's a little bit of both. Okay, I was talking about Alex Jones yesterday. I personally think this was his last straw. You can't badmouth China. Well, you know what I mean. Senator Dianne Feinstein ties to China go way deeper than an alleged office spy. This is from the Federalist, by the way. Senator Dianne Feinstein's warm relationship with and advocacy for communist China go back decades and involve millions, if not billions, of dollars. I sometimes say that in my last life, maybe I was Chinese. Senator Knight, are you fucking kidding? Oh, wow. Okay. This is honestly what I think Alex Jones' last straw was. As media, intelligence agency, and political scrutiny of foreign meddling is seemingly at its apex, a story with big national security implications involving a high ranking senator with access to America's most sensitive intelligence information has been hiding in plain sight. The story involves China and the senior U.S. Senator from California and former chair of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, Democrat Dianne Feinstein. It was buried 8 paragraphs into a recent Politico expose on foreign efforts to infiltrate Silicon Valley as a passing example of political espionage. Former intelligence officials said Chinese intelligence once recruited a staff member at a California office of U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein, and the source reported back to China about local politics. A spokesperson for Feinstein said the office doesn't comment on personal matters or investigations, but noted that no Feinstein staffer in California has ever had a security clearance. Later comes additional detail. According to 4 former intelligence officials in the 2000s, a staffer in Senator Dianne Feinstein's San Francisco field office was reporting back to the MSS, China's Ministry of State Security, its intelligence and security apparatus. So I guess that's like our CIA. While this person, who was a liaison to the local Chinese community, was fired, charges were never filed against him. You don't have to have top secret clearance to get top secret information, by the way, just saying. One former official reasoned that this was because the staffer was providing political intelligence and not classified information, making prosecution far more difficult. The suspected informant was run by officials based at China's San Francisco consulate, said another former intelligence official. The spy's handler probably got an award back in China for his work, noted this former official dryly. This anecdote provides significantly more questions than answers. For starters, who was the spy? For how long was the spy under surveillance? What information about local politics was the spy passing to China? And I would like to know personally what aspects of local politics, or just like a little bit of everything. Okay, that's just me. Just how close was the guy to the senator? Did law enforcement officials sweep vehicles and other areas for listening devices? And was there an investigation into whether others in the senator's circle may have been coordinating with Beijing? Did the senator expose herself to potential blackmail or the public to danger through the leakage of sensitive, highly classified information? Is firing really the proper punishment for providing political intelligence to a foreign power? The details right now are few and blurry. We now know only the most basic of additional details about what occurred in Feinstein's office. 5 years ago, the FBI approached the senator to apprise her that a San Francisco-based staffer was being investigated under the suspicion of spying for China. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, Feinstein's hometown paper, this staffer, who had worked with Feinstein for almost 20 years, drove her around in San Francisco and served as gopher in her San Francisco office and as a liaison to the Asian American community, even attending Chinese consulate functions for the Senate. Are you fucking? Oh my God. 20 years? You're a gopher for 20 years? An unnamed source added that a Chinese MSS official first approached the staffer during a visit to Asia several years prior. Given his proximity to Feinstein, we have no idea what information he could have gleaned in her employ. We do have a presumed identity. The Daily Caller discovered that a Feinstein staffer named Russell Lowe, listed on the senator's payroll as an office director as of 2013 before he was let go, matches the description of the Chinese asset. It appears Lowe continued to operate freely in the United States a year after he was removed from Feinstein's staff. Lowe spoke at a conference on Chinese investment in California. In 2017, he visited a South Korean publications office with former Representative Mike Honda, Democrat, California, indicating that he still had access to political figures. Lowe presently serves as Secretary General for the. I'm sorry, y'all. It's having a little bit of trouble here. Lowe presently serves as the Secretary General of the Education for Social Justice Foundation, which seeks to educate the public on unresolved historical conflicts, human rights, and crimes against humanity. The Chinese government likely views its present focus favorably. Japanese abuses during the World War II era via its Comfort Women system, where 200,000 girls from 13 or more Asian countries were forced into sexual slavery. Wow. What? Lowe discusses the nonprofit's work here. It took a tweet from President Trump implying hypocrisy given Feinstein's role investigating the Russian collusion as a member of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence while a Chinese spy infiltrated her own office to force the senator to address the issue. Donald J. Trump. Diane is the person leading our nation on collusion with Russia, only done by Dems. Will she now investigate herself? Senator Dianne Feinstein, one of two. The FBI told me 5 years ago it had concerns that China was seeking to recruit an administrative member of my California staff. Despite no access to sensitive information, I took those concerns seriously. I learned the facts and made sure the employee left my office immediately. Sure you did. Feinstein's account conflicts with what has been reported regarding the recruitment and activities of the Chinese spy. She conveniently admits that her office employed this individual for almost 20 years in a close capacity while he represented the senator in interactions with Chinese officials. A short history of Dianne Feinstein's love for China. For the last 40 years, no politician in America has arguably maintained a deeper, more long-standing, and friendlier relationship with China at the highest levels of its ruling Communist Party than Feinstein. It dates back to the opening of the U.S.-Chinese diplomatic relations in 1979. Shortly thereafter, Finestein, then mayor of San Francisco, established a sister city relationship with Shanghai, one of the earliest and most robust such relationships in U.S.-China history. Soon after, Feinstein led a mayoral delegation to China, joined by her husband, investor Richard Bloom, a trip they took together many times over the ensuing years as the relationship between Feinstein and China grew. During the 1980s, as mayor of San Fran, Feinstein developed a close relationship with Shanghai mayor Jiang Zemin. I hope I know I got the Jiang part right. I don't know. This substantially enhanced Feinstein's foreign policy profile and created important linkage to the U.S. government for China's Communist Party. Just as Feinstein rose to a prominent position in foreign affairs and national security in the U.S. Senate, first on the Foreign Relations Committee and later as chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, Jiang rose to the top of the Chinese leadership, serving as chairman of the Central Military Commission, general secretary of the CCP, and president of the People's Republic of China. Under Jiang's leadership, the PRC initiated a brutal crackdown against practitioners of Falun Gong, including mass imprisonments, beatings, torture, rape, orphan harvesting, and murder, and engaged in alleged human rights atrocities against Tibetans. Feinstein never renounced her friendship with Jiang in spite of these acts. Y'all, God. Feinstein and Jiang reportedly visited each other regularly in the 1980s, with Jiang once spending Thanksgiving in San Francisco with Feinstein and her husband. Jiang supposedly danced with Feinstein during one such visit, which surely must have been a propaganda coup for the CCP, a la Ted Kennedy and the Soviets. Turned out to be a lucrative relationship. Oh, imagine that. Oh, y'all, oh man, I get so fucking mad. In 1986, Feinstein and Jiang designated several corporate entities for their fostering commercial relations. One, named Shanghai Pacific Partners, Feinstein's husband served as director. His financial position was relatively small, less than $500,000 on one project, the only such position in China that Feinstein family held when Feinstein entered the Senate in 1992. That project, however, which Bloom, remember that's her husband, Bloom first participated in alongside PRC state-run Shanghai Investment Trust Corporation, was one of the first joint ventures between San Fran and Chinese investors, reportedly. Cited by the Chinese officials as a testament to the friendly business ties between Shanghai and San Francisco that Finestein had initiated, subsequently, Bloom's investments in the Middle Kingdom mushroomed. In May 1993, Finestein expressed her strong support on the Senate floor for continued trading with China. God damn, man, they were doing horrible shit in 1993, too. Contemporaneously, her husband was seeking to raise the $150 million from investors, including himself, for a variety of Chinese enterprises. In August 1993, Finestein and her husband visited Beijing for extensive meetings with Chinese leaders at President Xing's invitation. As the Los Angeles Times reported in a 1994 expose on Feinstein's husband's business ties and the political conflict of interest they presented, such encounters are fondly remembered when deals are clinched back in China, according to American experts in Chinese business practices. They say that Feinstein's consistent support for China's interests, cannot help but benefit her husband's efforts to earn profits there. The historical record suggests these American experts were right. Bloom successfully raised $160 million for the aforementioned Asia Fund under his Newbridge Capital Investment Company, including $1 to $2 million himself. The fund invested in several state-owned and Chinese government-linked businesses. Why we love trading with China. Bloom's firm's largest holding, at the time his China investments began to draw scrutiny in 1997, was its stake at Northwest Airlines. The then estimated $300 million position was poised to significantly appreciate in value, as Northwest happened to be the sole airline operator providing nonstop service from the United States to any city in China. I don't think that means that you go to any city, you know what I mean. One such visit in January 1996, Feinstein and Bloom enjoyed a meal with President Xing. When questioned on his China investments, Bloom pledged to donate future profits from the holdings to his nonprofit foundation to help Tibetan refugees, thereby removing any perception that I, in any way, shape, or form, benefit from or influence my wife's position on China as a U.S. Senator. But these conflicts of interest issues persisted. In January 1995, Finestein was appointed to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Subsequently, she made several visits to China, accompanied by her husband, where she met with senior government officials. During these trips, the couple. I don't know what. I'm just reading. During these trips, the couple was wined and dined on one such visit in January 1996. Feinstein and Bloom enjoyed a meal with President Xing in Zhongnanhai, the exclusive leadership compound for China's Communist Party, where, according to Feinstein, they ate in Mao Zedong's residence in the room where he died. Well. Feinstein kept up her dogged support for increased trade with China. In May 1996, she penned an editorial in the Los Angeles Times calling for the United States to grant most favored nation trading status to China. And we did. And we fucking, on a permanent basis, and get past the annual dance. It's proven to be extraordinarily divisive. I don't say divisive because I pronounce it correctly. Divisive and not at all helpful toward reaching the oft-stated goal, improvement in human rights. Campaign contributions from foreign sources. While Feinstein maintained her pro-China positions, in March 1997, y'all, I'm drinking this juice. Man, it just waters the shit out of your mouth. In March 1997, the senator revealed that the FBI had warned her that the Chinese government might seek to funnel illegal contributions to her campaign fund. She was one of only 6 members of Congress to receive such a warning. As the New York Times noted at the time, Feinstein had returned $12,000 in 1994 contributions from people with connections to Lippo Bank, an arm of multi-billion-dollar conglomerate owned by the Riyadi family with investments and operations throughout Asia. It employed a senior American executive named John Wayne. The Riyadis, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but the Riyadis have been friends and supporters of the Clintons since Bill Clinton was governor of Arkansas. Hell for Clinton named Huang a top fundraiser for the Democratic National Committee, his deputy assistant secretary of commerce. At the time, Feinstein disclosed returning the lipotide contributions. Huang was under Justice Department investigation. Y'all, these fucking people stay under investigation all the time. At the time Feinstein disclosed returning the lipotide contributions, Huang was under Justice Department investigation for making potentially illegal contributions to the Democratic Party from foreign sources. He later pled guilty to violating campaign finance laws as part of the investigation into Chinese attempts to influence U.S. policy through illegal campaign contributions stemming from the 1996 election. It was later revealed that Wang may have had a direct financial relationship with the Chinese government. The DNC returned more than half of the $3 million he had collected for the party in 1998. An unclassified report from the Senate Committee on Governmental Affairs stated that the Riyadis, Wang's former employer, the leader of which had also pled guilty to campaign finance violations, had a long-term relationship with the Chinese intelligence agency. What is the connection to Finestein? In June 1996, the senator held a fundraiser at her home attended by President Clinton, Huang, and Xiaoming Dia, chairman of a Hong Kong-based investment company in which Lippo Group had owned a controlling stake until 1994. The Chinese get Feinstein's lucrative political support. In May 2000, Feinstein, for one thing, this is why I'm against career politicians. In May 2000, Feinstein lobbied for making permanent normal trading relations with China, a measure that ultimately passed and helped pave the way for its entrance into the World Trade Organization, which Feinstein also supported. At the time, a spokesperson for Feinstein indicated that her husband had divested of his last holdings in mainland China in 1999, but Bloom's stake in another Newbridge Capital Asia fund, which contained investments in China, belied that assertion. Meanwhile, in the years leading to the passage of the legislation, Bloom's Newbridge Capital reportedly invested more than $400 million into East Asian businesses, at least $90 million of which was invested in companies whose profits are pegged to the burgeoning mainland China market, according to the companies themselves, and several of which were partly owned or founded by the Chinese government. If nothing else, Bloom still stood to profit handsomely from management fees for these portfolios. Defense companies in which Bloom's firms were invested signed billions of dollars in military contracts approved by Feinstein's committee. Such investments in Chinese assets continued. In 2004, Newbridge Capital purchased an 18% stake in Shenzhen Development Bank, the first time a foreign company took effective control of a Chinese lender. Holy hell. From 2001 to 2005, she proved herself. Look, man, I'm as motherfucking Chinese as y'all. Let me in. From 2001 to 2005, Feinstein served as chair of the Senate Military Construction Appropriations Committee. During this time, defense companies in which Bloom's firms were invested signed billions of dollars in military contracts approved by Feinstein's committee. This suggests a parallel pattern in the Feinstein family's political and business dealings that adversaries like China surely could have sought to exploit. When pressed on conflicts of interest, however, on multiple occasions, Feinstein has flippantly responded by rhetorically asking what she could do to satisfy those raising the issue short of getting divorced. Feinstein's husband has stressed that his ties to the Dalai Lama and criticism of Chinese human rights violations would never have helped him to curry favor with the Chinese and maintain. The senator recently co-sponsored the Foreign Investment Risk Review Modernization Act of 2018, incorporated into the pending National Defense Authorization Act, which gives the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States greater oversight over foreign transactions, geared in part towards China's, I just fucked up, y'all. Yep, sure did. Boop. Hold on. Try to bring it back. All right. Well, that's not exactly where we were, was it? Okay, here we go. The senator recently co-sponsored the Foreign Investment Risk Review Modernization Act, incorporated into the pending national, which gives the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States greater oversight for foreign transactions, geared in part towards China's malign efforts to gain valuable technology and steal intellectual property. But but provisions penalizing sanctions violating Chinese telecommunications companies, ZTE, were stripped from the NDAA at the Trump administration's urging. Way to go, Trump. Interestingly, perhaps anticipating future troubles, the House Intelligence Committee would first warn that ZTE posed national security risks in 2012. In October 2011, ZTE hired its first in-house lobbyist, none other than former Finestein aide Peter Rufo, a position it appears he still holds today. Feinstein's related apologism for the Chinese government. Feinstein's economic positions frequently downplayed the PRC's rampant human rights violations. The senator has fashioned herself a peacemaker, often urging appeasement of the Chinese regime in both apologism for such abuses and urging restraint. Feinstein also argued against tying China's most favored nation trading status to human rights improvement. Oh, fuck off, you bitch. These efforts date back to the early 1980s. Until that time, participants in San Francisco's Chinese New Year parade displayed the flag of the nationalist Chinese which had ruled in exile on Taiwan after 1949, according to San Francisco Gate. Then Mayor Feinstein asked organizers to stop the partisan practice because she wanted to encourage. What the fuck? All right, I think you've heard enough of this. I think you get what's going on here. Alex Jones started showing you just how in bed these fucks are with China. And here's the thing, man. It's okay if the Chinese do it. It's what they allow for other people to do. And then say if white people do it or if Americans do it, then, we're fucking racist or xenophobe. Let me tell you what. Let me go ahead and break this down. Let me tell you who I am. I think you should have a healthy level of xenophobia in you. I think you should have a much healthier level of Islamophobia in you. I think those are two pretty good phobias to carry throughout life. That being said, I just wanted to read you guys some of this article. This is honestly why I believe Alex Jones was gotten rid of yesterday. And we all need to fucking fight. Whether you like him or dislike him, he needs to be back on the air. Because next could be you, could be me. Not that they won't give a shit if I went away, but I'm going to keep plugging along anyway. Guys, catch you later.